Today we begin a new section of Ephesians and a new theme. This week I'm going to be sharing with you from Ephesians chapter 2, verses 1 through 10. And the theme of this chapter actually influenced and shaped our theme for our bicentennial year. Because verses 1 through 10 in Ephesians chapter 2, it represents the church, with a capital C, the church's story, past, present, and future. Just as we are celebrating our past and rejoicing in our present and reimagining our future. I confess that largely came to me after reading Ephesians chapter 2. And we start with the first two verses, and our first couple days, the beginning of Ephesians 2, is about what life is like for humanity outside of Christ. And outside of Christ, Ephesians 2 says, we were dead. Not a very hopeful message, but it's the beginning point. We were dead. It says, you were dead through the trespasses and sins in which you once lived, following the course of this world, following the ruler of the power of the air, the spirit that is now at work among those who are disobedient. So there's a lot here in these two verses. So first of all of us as human beings and as those who are Christians or have come to faith, we have to begin by acknowledging that apart from Christ, outside of Christ, we are dead in our trespasses and sins. None of us is perfect. We all have faults. We've all made mistakes. We've all failed countless times. And before a holy God, none of us can stand on our own merit or how wonderful we are or the quality of our life. So outside of Christ, we're dead. And it says, following the course of this world, following the ruler of the power of the air. And there's this contrast between the spirit that is now at work among those who are disobedient and the sins in which it says you once lived. And that's the difference. When we come to faith in Christ, when we've been saved by grace, which we're going to be talking about all week, we no longer live as we once lived. We change how we live. We change our behavior, our actions towards others, our values, our priorities, all shift. Not only when we once and for all decide to follow Jesus, but as we continue to become more like him. Whereas those who are disobedient are still under the influence of that spirit that leads people to selfishness, to violence, to greed, to a lack of compassion or empathy, all those things that are part of life outside of Christ. So that's where we begin this week. Where were we outside of Christ? We were dead in our trespasses and sins. Thankfully, that's not the end of the story. There is grace and forgiveness and hope to come.